Once, there was a young man named Zach, who lived in a quiet village surrounded by rolling hills and farmland. Zach was unlike most of the villagers. While others busied themselves with farming or crafting, Zach often seemed lost in his thoughts, distracted by daydreams or the allure of games and small amusements. His attention drifted easily, making it hard for him to finish even the simplest tasks. People would shake their heads and call him lazy or aimless, but Zach simply couldn't seem to stay focused. One day, his neighbor Gary stopped him. Gary was a gruff but kind-hearted man who had spent years observing Zach's wandering ways. "Oh, Zach," Gary said, "you don't even know where you're going. Without focus, who knows what'll happen to you? Maybe it's time you see something important." Gary pointed to the tallest mountain in the distance, its peak disappearing into the clouds. "Up there lives a monk," Gary explained. "They say he has the answers to life's toughest questions. If anyone can help you understand your distractions, it's him." Zach hesitated. The idea of climbing a mountain was daunting. It was steep, cold, and would take days. Yet, deep down, Zach felt compelled to go. For the first time, he wanted something more than a fleeting diversion. He wanted to understand himself. Without another word, he set off toward the mountain. The journey was harder than Zach imagined. The trail was rocky, the air grew thinner, and cold winds bit at his skin. Every step tested his resolve. Just as he began to doubt himself, he came across a farmer sitting on a ledge overlooking a frozen field. The man looked defeated, his shoulders slumped. "What's wrong?" Zach asked, pausing to catch his breath. The farmer sighed heavily. "This is my land," he said, gesturing to the barren fields. "Winter's taken everything. My crops won't grow, no matter what I try. I fear this might be my last season." Zach frowned. "I'm sorry to hear that, but why are you here, so far from your fields?" The farmer gave a bitter smile. "I've heard about the monk at the top of the mountain. Maybe he has answers, but I'm too weak to make the climb." He turned to Zach. "Could you ask him something for me? Ask when my land will grow again." Zach nodded. "I'll ask," he promised, before continuing his climb. As Zach ascended higher, the air grew colder and the snow thicker. On a narrow path, he stumbled upon a mother and her young daughter, both huddled under a thin, tattered blanket. Their faces were pale from cold and hunger. "What are you doing out here?" Zach asked, alarmed. "It's dangerous to be on this mountain without shelter." The mother's voice was barely a whisper. "We had no choice," she said. "We lost everything. Our home, our food, even the clothes to keep us warm. We were coming to see the monk, hoping he could help us, but thieves took everything. We don't know how much longer we can survive." Zach's heart ached for them. He helped them find a small cave nearby and shared the little food he carried. "Stay here," he said gently. "I'll make sure the monk hears about you." Before leaving, the mother stopped him. "Thank you, kind stranger. If you do reach the monk, could you ask him when we'll finally be free from this life of suffering?" "I will," Zach promised, and with that, he pressed on. After days of climbing, Zach finally reached the peak, where a long line of people stretched before him. Each waited patiently for their turn to speak with the monk, who sat cross-legged on a simple mat at the edge of a cliff. The monk exuded a calm presence that drew people from far and wide. Zach waited for days, enduring cold nights and hunger, until at last it was his turn. The monk greeted him with a serene smile. "Why have you come, traveler?" the monk asked. Zach took a deep breath. "I've come to understand why I can't focus or finish what I start. I want to learn patience." The monk's smile widened. "Patience, my friend, is not something you find at the end of a journey. It is something you discover along the way. Tell me, what did you experience as you climbed this mountain?" Zach recounted his encounters. The despair of the farmer, the suffering of the mother and daughter, and how he had stopped to help them despite his own struggles. The monk nodded thoughtfully. "Do you see?" the monk said. "Patience isn't just waiting for the end. It is the act of staying present and steadfast, even when the journey is difficult. You have already learned patience. Every step you took, every person you helped, showed your commitment to a purpose greater than yourself." Zach was struck by the truth of the monk's words. He asked the questions the farmer and the mother had sent him with, and the monk gave wise answers for each, which Zach carried back down the mountain. When Zach returned to the village, he was a changed man. He delivered the monk's answers to the farmer and the mother, but more importantly, he carried with him a newfound sense of focus and presence. No longer did he drift aimlessly through life. He worked hard, helped his neighbors, and found joy in every moment. Zach had learned that patience wasn't about waiting for answers. It was about embracing the journey and staying true to your path.